Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name's Adam, as always, joined by Baker. How you doing, mate?
Very well, mate. I'm very glad to have this evening. It's mad. It's like no FPL yet. I feel more stressed than when we've got FPL.
So damn confused, man. I'm so confused what to do. It's just blowing my mind. But thankfully, we've got an expert in this kind of thing to come and help us have a look through. How you doing, Pras? You good, man?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but just a geek who's excited like it's Christmas. Got so much new
FPL
information
will
to
literally
process.
call you an expert. They literally call you an expert. So we'll go with that.
I hate
You are
that.
an expert. You are the expert of experts.
No, thank you for having me on. It's my Sunday staple, so good to be on and chatting with you guys.
Nice one. So yeah, normally Sunday we're reviewing games. Obviously, we've got nothing really to review. So, we're going to be looking at. Well, we said we're going to look really at game week 22, but like everything leads into like crazy season now. So it's not going to be so much, looking at what our teams are going to be. But I guess there is a bit of that, I suppose. But also, what do the FA Cup fixtures mean? What are the permutations? I'm guessing most people are familiar with the permutations, generally speaking. But in terms of like, what does that mean for us, and what can we take from it? I guess.
If they're not, can Praz do it? Can Praz tell us what the key game weeks are?
Well,
there'll be some.
There'll be
some that don't know.
We'll talk through it.
And I've been looking at like the, these percentages of chance of this happening, and I'm looking at it thinking, yeah, but I could see this happening. I definitely could see this happening. And I said to you guys, like, well, there's two fixtures there that I'm like, genuinely, it'd be least surprising if these happened. Like, no one would be surprised. I don't think, not really. So we can look through those. Yeah, what else we're going to go through? First of all, just want to say well done to Dan, Crypto Block Dan. He's our podcast sponsor, and he completed High Rocks Manchester yesterday, in like an hour and 38 minutes, something like that. So, well done to you, Dan. We love you.
He looked like he'd been working hard. Well, I guess he's a retired man now. Do you know what I mean? He's been on it. Hard work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And hello to everyone in the chat, live with us on YouTube. Shout out to all of you guys. Some people watching the NFL. Some people watching the African Cup of Nations, maybe.
Some people were watching the cricket earlier. Jimmy, he's asked if we could review that.
No, we're not talking about the cricket.
What's cricket earlier, Paz?
No, I missed it, man. I don't know what happened. We were well ahead yesterday, and I missed today's game.
Unreal.
I don't know. I mean, we don't need to discuss it in detail. We're very disappointed. And after the World Cup final as well, we just need something, as fans of Indian cricket, we just need something to go our way.
I think it's good for, we're not a cricket podcast now, but I think the result, and I think the Windies result is good for Test cricket at the moment. I think it's like a bit stale at the moment, and something shaking it up is fun.
I mean, nothing to take away from me, from England. Fantastic. I mean, to beat India in India is absolutely the pinnacle, and they played really well. So well done.
So the chat wants you to tell us what to do.
Let's go step by step. What are we talking about first? The
Well,
FA Cup draw, or should we talk about the path, or what should we do?
we could talk about the FA Cup draw. It's probably the one slide that we don't actually have on screen. That's amazing. How do we not have that? Out of everything that we've prepped, how do we not actually have those games, those fixtures on the screen?
Well, we've got
I-
what matters, haven't we? We got
Well,
what
let's-
it means potentially for game week 29.
Okay, so then in terms of which one is it? Is it this one?
The
No.
next one.
This one?
Mr. Krellin. Mr.
This one?
Krellin's one. That
That's
one.
the one.
That's the one we want.
That's the one.
I mean, I messaged you guys when the draw was made that I'm a bit disappointed with the draw. And you know, a lot of people will say that there's chaos because a lot of teams have easy fixtures, which means a lot of teams will now expect to blank because if you're in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, you will blank in game week 29. But because it's predictable, a lot of fixtures or a lot of the fifth round games are predictable, where big team plays small team by and large. It's then predictable on what happens from here to an extent in 29, somewhat in 34, somewhat in 37, which will mean that chip strategies will converge. And so that's why I was a little bit upset. If, you know, Liverpool plays Man City, suddenly things are open. You can free hit before, you know. So that was my first takeaway from the draw. What did you guys think?
I didn't watch the draw as it happened. I was off. I was like, oh, I'm free Sunday afternoon. I'm going to driving range. So and pulled up, checked my phone, and sort of scrolled through the fixtures, and I was like, where's the fun ones?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Draws. You know, this is happening on this date, and I was like, oh, that's. There's nothing particularly contentious there. So walking through them for the audio people, if they're not there. So Brighton have got Man City in 29. That now just feels very, very difficult. If Liverpool beats Watford or Southampton, then we've got no Everton Liverpool. So that feels, albeit we are in that stage now where it's a 92% chance of a blank, but one result and it's in, you know.
Yeah.
Because these are when they're both teams have got to lose, it's tougher, you know. Crystal Palace v Newcastle. If Newcastle beat the winner of Blackburn or Wrexham, then Crystal Palace Newcastle's off. So there's that. We then have the one I think you mentioned earlier, or Adam, was Wolves v Bournemouth. So both teams could lose that game, but both have to lose that. So Wolves have got Brighton and Bournemouth have got Leicester.
It definitely feels unlikely that both will go out because I mean, just probability will tell you that it's unlikely.
Yeah.
But if you picked Wolves versus Brighton and you went Brighton win that game, like, would that surprise you?
Wouldn't surprise me, but wouldn't surprise me if Wolves won it either.
Yeah, that's fair. And then Bournemouth and Leicester as well. I mean, given that Leicester are absolutely flying, like if they don't lose Keane and Dewsbury Hall this month or whatever, you know, there's absolutely no reason why Leicester couldn't go down to the South Coast and beat Bournemouth. I mean, that was a Premier League fixture last year, and
if either of those teams were away, I would also be a bit more. But both teams at home and both teams, you know, have got to lose. It's tough.
It's the whole thing. Yeah, I agree.
And no replay. So if it'd be like, oh, I could pull them to a replay, get to the other side. The replay's done now, fifth?
No replays.
No replays. Yeah, like all of it's at the visiting ground. It's tough. Man United against probably Forest or Bristol City.
Yeah, and this one could actually, I mean, again, sorry, as a United fan, I'm not bullish. Away to Forest, we could lose. And the interesting thing with this one, either this will be a blank or the Wolves game will be a blank. So it'll be either or unless Luton beat Man City, which let's assume they don't. So it'll either be Forest game, which will be a blank, or Man United game, which will be a blank. So we'll get one, but these are not popular teams, right? I mean, if Wolves and Bournemouth was on, then you could see people getting on to Hwang because his fixtures in 26, 28, 29 would have been really good. But there is no such clear path with Man United. Even though Sheffield United at home, people will look at that if they have that game.
That's where it's so limited, isn't it? Because you said, like you say, Luton v Forest. We assume Luton will lose to City, but so we assume then if Man United do win, then we get Luton Forest. You're like, well, Luton Forest isn't doing us a huge amount of favours. Even on a free hit, though, having Luton and Forest players isn't doing us a lot of favours. For 29. And then this Villa Chelsea replay is quite a big deal.
Very big deal.
Because
Because this will also be a one or the other.
Yeah. So if Villa go out to Chelsea and we get Villa West Ham into it, bar Watkins, they're not huge owned, a lot of those players, but they're interesting players.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be upset on a free hit having 6 of them, and or certainly 4 or 5 of them, and seeing what happens on them. Whereas if it ends up that Villa beat Chelsea, and it's at Villa Park, the replay, isn't it?
It is.
Then we get Arsenal Chelsea into 29. So you're like, oh, we've already got those players. It's difficult. It's difficult to see anything good that's exciting for 29, but it's also very, very difficult to get a team out for 29.
Correct. And it takes one game, as you said. It takes one upset. Remember last season when Spurs lost to, is it Southampton or Middlesbrough? I forget the team. But they lost when everybody said, oh, Spurs are going to blank in 29. And they lose and basically triggered wildcards, if you remember last year.
Yeah. Yep. So 29, potentially, it's actually, you can grind your way through it if that Arsenal Chelsea drops in relatively easily, I think, with not 11 players, but certainly the key players that you might want. Tony would become very popular, wouldn't he, away to Burnley? All the standard Arsenal Chelsea ones. Tottenham would probably want some back.
Yep.
A lot of people keep Porro now because of that 29, just in case. How does it make you feel about free hit 26?
Well, the thing with this is what I tweeted as well. The thing with the volume of the blanks is that when you're sitting and if you've used up a free hit in game week 26, it's fine to do that because you could free hit out Chelsea, you could free hit out Spurs, and then potentially, as we can see here, Chelsea could have a game, Spurs could have a game. So it could make sense. And if you free hit in 26, you could maximize 25. You could maximize 26, obviously, because of the free hit, and 29 could be manageable. The problem then comes, what next? Because you see here, there are 5 or 6 blanks that will come about because of these fixtures. These 5 or 6 will go into game week 34 or 37. There are further 2 more blanks that will come from the semi-finalists that reach the semi-final of the FA Cup. That happens in game week 34. Now, those may not be certain blanks, but they need to be moved because those semi-finals happen on that weekend. So there is the volume of these fixtures mean that 34 and 37 are going to be pretty full, big double game weeks. And question is, if you used your free hit in 26, you managed 29, it's just going to be harder just with the wild card and potentially no free hit to then bench boost and actually maximize those doubles. So question is that blank so big that you cannot put out 9 or 10 good players? And so it's a team dependent question. If your team is so bad for 26 and you're so bullish on Spurs and Chelsea that you think there's value to it, do that. But I just think those doubles are so huge in 34, 37 that one of those for a free hit, one of those for a bench boost is just going to be very popular.
Potentially for 26, the Chelsea Spurs game. So that's obviously out at the moment. If Villa beat Chelsea, is there any latest on potentially could it drop into 26 still in the midweek?
No, I don't think so.
That's what I heard. There was like a small chance that it doesn't blank because they can just move it a few days.
Not to my knowledge, because the thing is, the reason for that is because it's a TV game. They will not want it to coincide with the FA Cup. I mean, it's Ben's point, so I'm just taking what he said. So Ben Crellin basically he said they can do it, but doesn't mean they will do it because TV companies win out in the end, and they'll want to keep it for a midweek where everybody will watch Chelsea Spurs, not the FA Cup.
Yeah, I think most predictors have it to come later. There's a really the neutral. There's a really fun run for Tottenham which we play everybody that nobody wants to play. So we're playing Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, and you stick it in the middle of that, and you make it the death run of like 5 teams. Like I can see that happening. I could just see that being the way that they go with it. It's big, it's good fun. And like you say, it's a TV game.
Yeah. And so I don't want to rule out free hit 29 as such as well, because I know we talked about the fact that there's going to be low scoring games, hard to predict. But the benefit of a free hit 29 would be that you can delay your wild card. So a lot of teams, what they will do is they will just say, I'm just going to dead end to game week 29. It makes sense because in game week 30, Man City play Arsenal. So you can just get rid of your Arsenal and Man City players. Let's see, especially if Arsenal don't have a game. Arsenal Chelsea is also blank. So you just get rid of your Arsenal and your Chelsea players. You get rid of your Liverpool players. You get your Tottenham players. You get your Villa players. And so there is value in sort of going that direction. And then you wild card out in game week 31. You could take another path where you say, I will free hit in 29 because I don't care about this game week. I don't think it exists. So people will say, where's the upside? The upside isn't in this game itself. So your upside here will be maybe you'll have 3 or 4 more players than others. People do score points, even if it's a low upside game. If you have a Burnley player and a Brentford attacker, you could still make points. So you could free hit in 29, but the benefit of that free hit is actually you don't then need to dead end, right? You can wildcard in game week 35. So you can actually then build your team even now towards game week 34 double, where you know some teams are going to double. So you're almost dead ending now, not to 29, but to 34. You wildcard in 35, and then you have a nice bench boost in 37. So that's another option. So that free hit in 29 isn't for 29, but it could help you delay the wildcard. So that would be my second alternative strategy if you were to look at free hits another week.
I'm just wondering about the fixtures out the back of 29 and wondering whether it is worth, carrying it. I'm looking at some of the teams, the teams with the best fixtures that run through are basically Bournemouth, Burnley, like Fulham. They're the ones that run through from 27 through to 30 with decent enough fixtures. Newcastle, I feel like, that's a big swing. It comes just before 29, but to be fair, if you can just hold off for a couple of weeks and then wildcard 30, I mean, I really like that. Spurs as well, generally. I mean, I know Spurs will have a game in 29, so that's probably not really a huge one. And you can almost
Spurs haven't got one though. Does mean in a way that it makes free hit not so good in 29 because if you get your triple up on Spurs in 29, you then want to carry it through to Luton in 30.
Yeah.
If you've got no Spurs, for example, and then you free hit in 29, you're still stuffed for 30 because you then got the home game against Luton, which is a better game than the away versus Fulham. It's a negative, if anything, for it.
I just think you can start moving. I just think you can start the dem piece. I mean, means you can start to avoid having City and Liverpool players in 28 as well when they play each other. And I know there's a part of me that thinks, Liverpool at home, City, last game for Klopp against Guardiola is going to be like mental goal fest. Salah's back, Haaland's back, everyone's the whole singing and dancing, everyone's there. But at the same time, it could be like 1-0 or 1-1, and then no defenders get points. Haaland probably gets points, and that's about it.
You kind of back Liverpool, Man City to be more of a goal fest though than I do Arsenal, Man City in 30. The chances that both of them are goal fests are pretty slim, but even if you put them both in. So that thing of, can you get rid of City in 28? Well, absolutely. I mean, Foden to Son in 27 will just be the transfer of transfers.
Absolutely.
People will be looking at making sure they've got the money that they can go Foden to Son in 27. That's going to be a big boy. So, I mean, we don't look. These games still haven't happened. But we're starting to get a bit of an idea that it's going to be slim pickings in 29 for sure. Carrying on that little bit further, then. So just the 34, 37 one. I think you pulled that up before that.
This one,
visual you showed for this one. So currently, this has in 34. Look, we're all in very we're not quite sure odds here. But effectively what this is showing is in 34, the chart teams with the most amount of percentage of a double are starting at the bottom: Wolves, Sheffield United, Forest, Luton, Everton, Palace, Brighton, Bournemouth. That either feels like a free hit because you want them in on that week, but then you don't want them in ever again. Or it feels like a potential bench boost week where you could have your normal 11 players, but when you've done your wild card, you've managed to just make sure your bench is covered by these type of teams. And therefore you roll on all out as a double once. 37, however, teams, I'll start from the top this time: Arsenal, Villa, Bournemouth, Brighton, Chelsea. Well, they're all good here. Fulham, Liverpool, almost certain. City, certain. Man United, certain. Newcastle, certain. Tottenham, certain. I mean, if you late wildcard, you could have the bench boost of the bench boost king of the world by having 15 players from those teams. Question will be, can you afford it? And it's very difficult. But that feels like a fantastic free hit one, albeit there will be a bit of polishing stones on that one because you've already got loads. You're probably going to keep half your team, and it is literally working to what you know right at that moment, because all those teams I just mentioned, you're going to want players from them in your normal team anyway.
But these are big upside teams. So you know, an injury comes up and you want, instead of a let's say Darwin, Jota becomes more appealing, or a Gakpo becomes appealing. You can, that little switch, instead of you get a City defender that is now nailed again in Pep system, whichever system that is at that point in time. So it's just that value of expensive teams. You put really rubbish on your bench because it's a double game week, and you have, let's say, an Ake as your, somebody to facilitate a free hit. He's going to play one of the games, so you literally need no bench. So yeah, I think looking at this, there is potential to say bench boost 34, free hit 37. But as you said, there is also the value to say the opposite, where you say, I want to free hit the rubbish teams. But I would, for example, I've just looked at what James from Planet FPL has predicted in terms of doubles. For him, 34 includes Spurs, 37 doesn't include Spurs. Just that little change is going to make 34 free hit even better, because I don't have to have Son on my wildcard in 31, but I can get Son on my free hit in 34, or vice versa. So it's a little bit further out, but the point of showing this slide is there are big weeks in 34 and 37 coming up. So just because your team has 9 or 10 players in 26, do think really hard, because you are missing 2. Here in a double, if your competition has 17 or 18, you don't have a free hit, you get to 14, you're missing 4. So it sometimes plays with our head, free hit in blank game week versus double game week. The upside in a double game week is much higher, but the risk in a double game week is also higher, because single game weeker can obviously outscore a double game weeker.
How do you feel about even these types of teams though? Because I'm looking at those same predicted doubles that James has put together, and like Liverpool, game week 37 double, away. City, game week 37 double, away. Tottenham, game week 37 double, home to Burnley, then home to City. Still not great. United,
the thing about
Arsenal and Newcastle.
The thing about 37 though is the massive caveat for any double is, what does it mean for the season? So Bournemouth, Brentford, Luton looks great, but if Bournemouth are sitting 14th at that point and of no danger of anything, it might not be as great. Like, as if Liverpool and City are going neck and neck for the title going into those crapper fixtures suddenly become a lot better fixtures because everybody's on it. We can't play out that part. But West Ham home to Luton and Villa, like West Ham and Bournemouth, you look at them and you think Bowen and Kudus, Solanke, all those players look great for it. But if they're not playing for anything, why not be? We just don't know.
And one thing to add here is 34, 37, we don't need to spend too much time because this will be dependent on the actual quarterfinal. So let's say in the quarterfinal, Liverpool play Man City. This changes because one of them doesn't make
Yeah.
the semi-final, which means they don't have an extra double. So it will change, which is why just reacting to when you wildcard in 31, then you figure it out. There is a chance, that you have a quarterfinal with Liverpool and Man City playing each other, Newcastle and Man United playing each other. Suddenly, it looks very easy to navigate 34. So you're obviously taking probabilities into account and saying maybe 26 is easier to navigate than a 34 will be. It may not be, depending on the quarterfinal draw. So again, back to wait for more information, which is a never-ending tagline in FPL.
Yeah, I just wonder whether playing the chips when you know people are. I mean, the difficulty is that right now when we're talking about playing chips, like all the players that we want are actually injured. Like that's the big thing at the moment. Like even if we talk about, if we talk about Salah, we talk about Haaland, although we think he's close, he's going to be close, right? Even like KDB, these players have injured or have been injured, and yeah, it makes these decisions even more difficult. And it's why I'm just going round in my mind as like what to do. Obviously, like Son being away, he's going to come back after playing X amount of games and whatever else. Yeah. Do we know what the latest is on Egypt? Actually, is it still 1-1?
Whenever you say Egypt, I switch to that tab. Or whenever you say Salah, I switch to that tab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to
Still
check.
Yeah.
Just
for those listening, we don't know. We don't know yet, so it's still there. If we go back to start, I did some polls earlier because that probably then starts to frame some conversations about what we're thinking into. Because
I'm going to open this back up actually on mine because I actually did answer all of those as well. So
did you answer them correctly, or did you do the?
Of course, I answered them correctly.
Answers?
No, I answered them correctly. I'm better than that, mate.
But hey, look, the caveat on these is basically a quarter of people admitted that they just fudged the polls. Yeah. And that's where it is. So I guess, what these polls show, and I just did the key decisions for the next few weeks or so. So free hit in 26, 16% said they were, and 84% said they weren't going to free hit in 26. There's not many doing it. Now, what we don't know is why they're not. So we don't know because if they got a plan, we don't know if it's because they've already done it. Like we don't know any of those things, but it's an interesting steer that it's like if you think you're going to be fighting a load of free hits in 26 doesn't look that way. It's also a potential upside that you might be able to put yourself together a team that a lot of people won't get. The Salah plan, and this all of these ones is you can either use them as a comfort blanket for your own decisions if you're not getting or not doing these fun things, or you can look at it as like, wow, like that opportunity is going to be huge. So let's start with Mo on that space. So I've already sold Mo. You two still have Mo. I don't see at the moment a way of me getting him back unless Haaland does a reoccurrence. That's my, I don't think I could call that a plan. But that would be the only way that I would see that I will be going into a double game week without Salah.
Yeah, I mean, like I've not captained Salah in a double game week, but I've always had him. Like I'm a bit cavalier, but
you've never captained Salah in a double game week, do you think? Surely.
So that infamous 26 I didn't, 28 I don't think I did either. No, I don't think so.
Wow.
Don't think so.
Wow.
I might have done. What I'm saying is I've in a double with Salah, I've been willing to not captain him, but I've not been willing to go without him. Like, what makes you think? What? I don't understand it. He's been so. I mean, obviously he's injured. I mean, is that the big thing now? Because he's injured and he's old, right?
I mean, he's injured. The words are, it's a tear. We've just had Van der Ven, who's been a few bumps on a tear.
Well, KDB's just come back from 4 months, wasn't it?
The problem with tears is there's millions of grades and it's minutiae of stuff and all these things, and you never know what your answers you get in the right stuff. It can be 2 weeks. It can be, I've always felt that if Egypt go out tonight, we might suddenly get some very different news, which is probably really disingenuous to Mo, who's been an absolute god for them for so long. But yeah, I always wondered how hard, based on this league situation, Klopp will push him. But hamstrings are an issue, and he's not young. And once hamstring goes, it's probably going to happen at some point again. It's probably not going to, despite the fact that we don't really know how Mo's going to heal because he's never injured.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the Mr. Indestructible, like always in control of his body is so unusual. It's like when he got injured, it was like, nah, that can't be true because we don't know. We just have no idea with him. But what I do know is that there's a very, 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 very small chance probably that he plays the next two. My hope as a non-owner is definitely that he doesn't play the Burnley game in 24. Because I think the Burnley game, if he suddenly is back by the Burnley game, I think people will have to rethink their opinion on it because it's not just a double, it's Burnley double. Oh, now I've got a blank. Like that can bring a lot of changes. So I think all of us would really benefit if we rolled in 23. So that we at least were going into 24 with options of what we can do in that space. But I can't see a way when I'm looking at putting all the people into the right boxes that I want them in. I'm finding it impossible for a way that I would do it, have the team that I liked, and have Mo in it. That's where I'm at. But it's easier to say it. It's much easier for me to say that when I've already told him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think so we have to look forward beyond the 25 as well, and the reason why people are saying maybe Mo isn't needed, even if he's fit. And the reason simply is that, yes, there is a lot of upside in Burnley home, Brentford away, Luton at home. But then now we know it's a sure shot blank. Then he plays Forest away, Man City at home, and then nearly a sure shot blank. So it's a case of, can you survive a double in which he may or may not be back? Let's assume he's back. Let's assume he's only missing Burnley away. And for Liverpool, this is not true for Man City. You also now have 3-4 good options. They're not more. They don't cover more, but they allow a lot of things. You have Darwin, who's starting pretty much every game, whether he's on the left or up top. You have Jota, who's now fit. So you can easily say, at least in one game, if not both, that you have a Mo, Darwin, Jota kind of front three. And you guys, I think, talked about it in the previous stream as well, that could be the way they line up. And when you add Trent as well, you can't have Trent, Haaland, and Salah. It's very difficult to also then hold the option value on a Saka and a Watkins. You just can't do that. So what you can do is avoid one of them. If that's Haaland, then fine. Maybe there's a recurrence and we don't have Haaland. So suddenly then Mo becomes important. But other than that, I think it's okay to just say he'll be fine. He'll score points. But hopefully the other three that I'll have combined with the other players that they afford will also do fine. And, a bit like people who went without Haaland in the last 10 weeks before he was injured. It could still make up for the loss.
Where are you at then?
That's where I am. So, look, I mean, things will change if Egypt go out and Klopp says, actually, we've had some, on Tuesday. Then things change because we're human, right? I mean, at the moment, we can only take into account he maybe misses Burnley. But if they try to rush him and say Arsenal is such an important game, next week he's fit for Arsenal, it feels unlikely, but it's possible. So if we get any news, maybe I change my plan. But as things stand, my plan is Jota, Darwin, Trent, and Foden, Haaland, and also keeping Saka and Watkins because I need one of them definitely for 29. That's basically the thinking right now.
Adam?
Well, we went through this before we started, right? And, I think if I do want Haaland, if I do want Salah, then I need to keep him, right? Because I've got him. So I would forego maybe Haaland in that scenario, but I don't know. It just feels really difficult not having Salah. Like as you said, I mean, I look back at his injury record. He's only ever missed like 6 games, like consecutively. That's the most he's ever missed. He's only ever been off for a month.
But is that a positive or is that a negative?
Well, the fact that
you can spin
his
it,
returns,
couldn't you?
yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean,
You could
well, this
spin
is
that
a
as a
new injury.
positive.
This is a new injury, so he's never had this injury. That's the biggest problem here. I've had to close down the screen, but he's never
That's
had
what I'm
this
saying,
injury.
like the fact that, like, if I want to spin the negative, the fact that he's injured when he's never injured, the fact that he's really, really old, and all we've been waiting for is that the body catches up and he gets a muscular injury. Like in any other sport, you'd be like, well, that's the start of the end. You would be. You know, a veteran gets an injury that they've never got before, like they're worried. But you can go the other way around and go, he's never been injured, so I'm assuming he must be unbelievable, superhuman, and we're back in a week. The problem is we don't know, and the longer you don't do anything about it, the more it potentially it's then too late to do anything about it.
I've been too late to do anything about a lot of things. I've been so late on stuff this season that I've been early and all this sort of stuff. So maybe the right thing for me to do is to move off Salah now and then work it out after, because I can get to KDB and then I can get to Haaland. That's fine. And then I can forego obviously Salah for a double. As you say, obviously the Forest game, the City game, the 2 blanks, you know, you feel like you can get to wildcard if you need to. Whether that be if you're looking at like a 30 wild, you can get to that place, and it probably won't be too bad. So you can probably get through that.
It feels like a couple of ways in which you keep Salah. One is there's quite a few people that sold Trent last week, so they've got to make a different bed. They might say, I'm going to put my eggs in the camp of Maui back, but I'm going to probably struggle now to get Trent back. There is an option now with Robbo, for example, for those that sold him. So they might be like, well, I'll get Robbo or I'll get Van Dijk, and play it that way. That potentially gives you that extra money, but it's tough, especially when you want a team for 26. So then it also loads on. If you're going to keep Mo, you're probably keeping Mo and then free hitting as well, because again, it's just everything else becomes more and more difficult, because you want the cheaper guys.
I mean, there's one emergency plan for Salah. I mean, if there's panic, and there can be panic, Salah is Salah, is basically in game week 24. Let's say he's back, and not just back, but you know, we know that he's starting. I don't know how that will be possible. Maybe Klopp says it, or maybe he's on the bench the week before against Arsenal. We don't know. But let's say he's back. You can, and by that time you will have had the replay for Chelsea versus Villa. So you will know which of Saka or Watkins is disposable, because you don't need them in 29. Now you need Watkins in 26, by the way, because he's probably the best captain. But let's say in a world where it is Saka who you can dispose of, it gives you an additional pot of money to afford a Salah. So you could do an emergency hit. You could get to do something where in game week 24, you could react. It could take a -4, -8, but I'm saying it's not completely ruled out. It's not part of the base plan, but plans change. There could be a big injury, by the way. We're talking all about no free hit in 26. If there's a major injury to an important player for 26, suddenly you're thinking actually free hit 26 makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So it's just, these are such fine margins. And there's a final emergency panic button, which is basically you just say, I'm destroying my team in game week 25 to get Salah, and I will just make it work in 26, and then I'll wildcard in 27. Some people did that last, the Carabao Cup final week. They wildcarded in game week 26, just right on the back of that. So there are options.
I did that. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
So options are there, but they're not the base case options.
I just I started laughing there because you went straight into emergency plan and then you said hit. Like a hit is it's like some crazy thing that you're not allowed to do unless absolutely necessary. Brilliant.
I've done a lot of those this season. A lot of those.
Well, they haven't been through choice, have they?
Well, I've made some choices. I've made some bad choices. I hit in. You say that, but I haven't been through choice. But I did hit in Morgan Gibbs White at one point, and I have hit in Garnacho. So good advice.
Something as small as a Trent injury, right? He comes back. There's a recurrence. Funds now are available. You could take Trent down, Saka up to Salah. So can't rule it out.
Fair enough.
There are options.
No.
Let's move on to KDB.
Well, I think you should start with KDB, mate, because when we spoke last week, you were definitely getting KDB.
I still like him as an option. I mean, and I've seen on Twitter people saying like, oh, okay, if you're saying that it's fine having him for 60 minutes or 35 minutes, that's just like copium or whatever. But like genuinely, there isn't another player in the league that you would trust with any minutes to score double-digit hauls. Like there's no other player. I can't think of another player that you'd want that could do it in half hour. Maybe Jota in the past, but I just think, as you said, like City are going to be starting to fire now, and they've got the double coming up. He's an excellent player. He's a fun player to watch. He's always involved, and I just like having him.
And look at both of these here. Is 2/3 of the people are saying no Mo. So if you think you're getting Mo and Mo's playing, it's an unbelievable. Like you could captain potentially a 30-40% owned. You could triple captain and get 250% of his points, which has never happened in any double game week ever, and a good double game week. And it's kind of a little bit the same on KDB. Is the people, 64% of people that did this poll said they were not have no plans to get KDB, whether it be in this week or whether it be in 25. Interestingly, more people said if they were going to get him, it's this week. And I do think the one big thing on KDB is that people want a captain this week. And that's, I agree with the poll to an extent that if you're going to get KDB, this is the week to get it. I would have been a lot more comfortable in doing it if he had started Friday night. Because there's no it doesn't make sense, does it? He comes out and says he can play 90, and then he only plays him for 20. What? But that just basically says, well, we don't know. We don't know, which is the same as always with Pep. You're always guessing to an extent. But there's now going to be nothing. What can he possibly say that makes you be able to?
The difference between the difference between Tottenham and Burnley, right, is the intensity of the game. Like genuinely, I don't want no disrespect to Burnley, but the game should have been more intense than it was because they literally dominated us on Friday. It was literally a cakewalk.
But it was intense. It was still intense.
Mental. Yeah, it was mental. So, that's not the kind of game that you bring someone who's, just on his way back in from injury. He said he's ready to play 90 minutes. Maybe he just was like, look, I've got the longer break is between the two Premier League games. And so, if I don't play him,
no,
of course we don't know. Like none of this we know. We're not really going to get loads of information.
Have we got enough information or enough evidence that I don't know. We have enough evidence that I'd back capping KDB over Foden. Like that's probably the thing with me in this world. I look at this and I'm like, if most of us own Foden now, like he's 60% owned, and I'm like, have I got enough that I would definitely bring in KDB and cap him over Foden? Because even when Foden, we had kind of the bit of the last time KDB came on that Foden went a bit isolated, but I didn't think he was isolated at all this one because Alvarez came off. And it's like, well, we don't now know who's going to play in what position. That's the issue. But Foden was still as likely, if more likely, to score than KDB once KDB come on because KDB was going to set him up. And we trust Foden's minutes more. Like I'm now in that camp where I'm like, I think I would rather captain Foden than I would captain KDB. And then it puts me off the idea that I get it. And also then it's just trying to work through again, how do I afford all these bits? I still that's where I'm at because that's my team and my position, and I'm obviously going to go, well, that's how I see this game playing out. Whereas like you want him in, so you're definitely going to be like, well, I fancy it's going to work, and that's the whole reason about all of this stuff is we're taking it on, but it's a lot easier. It should be a lot easier to beat Burnley at home than it is a team that you've never scored at that ground.
Yeah, you'd have thought that he would have liked his best player, almost most influential player in terms of creating chances on the pitch. You know, the game's going to be completely different against Burnley, right? And
we know you used to roll Mahrez out. It didn't matter if Mahrez hadn't played for 10 games. If they played Burnley, he was playing Mahrez and he was getting him up there, and Mahrez would brace every time against Burnley.
Yeah, there's no other explosive players that Pep has on his roster at the moment, is there, in his squad, just to come and...
Doku.
Yeah.
Doku.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's exactly
Doku beat Burnley. It feels like the big...
Wasn't that game week 11? Like, wasn't it actually Burnley? Or was it Bournemouth? I can't remember. I think it was Bournemouth, wasn't it? I've tried to erase that game week from my memory.
It's like we can make both we can make both sides of the argument. Where are you at, Pras, on KDB?
I'm actually somewhere in the middle because I think he's a very, very good pick, but he's not worth 10.2 million or whatever, 10.6, whatever he is now. If he's 8.5 million, he's the best pick, best transfer in at the moment. But when he's 10 and 10.6, then you start to think about what does he not enable. So in my team, what does it mean getting KDB is I'll have to sell Saka at some point, or I will not have a Darwin or a third Liverpool. And I'm thinking in a double game week, Darwin, KDB, maybe people will be offended by this, but I don't see much of a difference, or a Jota or a KDB. And it's only because there's no pens in consideration here. There's reduced minutes, because look, maybe by game week 25 is completely fit, playing 90-90, but there's also a chance that he is eased in. He is taking 60-70 minutes a game, and he's a very good pick, but for 10.6 million, maybe you want a little bit more. So at a time like this, and when we talk about our teams roll forward, I want 15 good players. I have no appetite for a cheapo fifth defender or a non-playing striker. I want 15 good players who I can use in some weeks versus the other weeks and basically navigate through this period. And if I get to a De Bruyne, it becomes difficult. And so that's the only reason why I'm thinking there are other better picks that I could go for, but also recognizing that De Bruyne could score a heck of a lot of points and it would hurt a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. I still think. I mean, you've obviously got Chris Wood at the moment. I'm assuming you're looking to upgrade him quite quickly.
He'll become Haaland, basically, when I get Haaland.
Fair enough.
Not an upgrade because Chris Wood is Chris Wood, but still.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But like on like in between the two, would you not put? I mean, I do want to see more from Brighton's attack, but isn't João Pedro just sitting there on pens, just like a gift at 5.5 million?
He's a gift, man.
The fixtures through to 28. Obviously, we expect him not to play in 29, but because it's City. But yes, I mean the fixtures through to that are just fantastic.
I just think there are players at each price point that you can get to that enable you to get to KDB. So, you could, even if you needed to sacrifice anything in defence, you've got Alfie Doughty, for example, who's got a double and plays in 29 most likely as well. So,
but doesn't play in 26.
Doesn't play in 26. Again, that leans to blank free hit in 26.
Mm.
But there are players at each of the price, like even Palmer and Gordon are cheap. Obviously, most people got Palmer already. Gordon's still cheap. I'm just looking at my team at the moment, obviously.
There's lots of cheap enablers, Adam. I mean, it's not about affording someone. It's about getting people with maximum doubles in 25, with 10 or 11 in 26, with 7 or 8 in 29 and maybe you take a hit or two to get there for 10.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to build towards. But if you free hit in 26, that changes completely. Then Doughty becomes great for you because you get the doubler, you get him in 29. You don't shy away from Spurs or Chelsea players. So it completely changes if you're using a chip to enable a De Bruyne, which could be actually also in 25. You could use a free hit chip in 25 and get all these guys. In fact, even a fit Salah, you get him if he's fit. You can get a Salah, De Bruyne, Haaland, Trent team in 25 if you really wanted to free hit them.
I think what you're saying there, and I think it's absolutely right. I think there's going to be teams that lean into KDB or lean into Mo, that lean into a free hit 26 and smash out the teams that don't do that. There's going to be those teams, but it's quite unlikely. I think they're going to luck into it. I think you've got to start planning now and get in. How do you actually then get through each of these weeks and where you go from it? Like what you're saying there is, I think that'd be perfect, Adam. You lean into KDB, you lean into João Pedro because of the fixtures coming in and having that player out of the free hit that's ready made, sat there with some good fixtures, 27, 28. You've got Doughty who's going to play a double of 25. And albeit you've got to want to play him in 25. That's another thing with Doughty because all of the players, other defenders that you've got, have got pretty good fixtures. Trent, if you still got him, he's definitely there. Benching a Arsenal defender away against Burnley is not easy. Porro against Wolves is not easy, and it's very difficult to get past 3 defenders. Whereas the fixtures in 25 of Man United and Liverpool, you're really hoping for a lot out of that Man United game at home. It's doable, but I think it is you've got to already have the right guys, ready to set yourself up to do it. And then secondly, you've got to plan your way through of how does this work. And then hope that there's no injuries.
And the scarcity of transfers. Like if you're going for De Bruyne and João Pedro, when are you getting your Liverpool guys? When are you getting rid of some of the blankers in 26? It's just, if you had 6 weeks to plan for it, I think De Bruyne, João Pedro, perfect. I mean, if I have 6, 7 transfers, I can build towards that.
Yeah.
I don't have the resources.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, and I'm looking at my João Pedro is kind of enabled by transferring Watkins out. So again, that's more like game week 26 free hit. It's just it's everything says free hit 26.
If you lean into those moves,
if I lean
and
into
that's
those
what I'm
moves.
saying is if you're going to, because that's what you've got. I did this what you said last time with the go early on the 26 wild card, and then I free hit on the 27, which was like lean in on this, lean in on what you've got coming out the 28 free hit, and the free hit was rank. Like it didn't. Well, I went triple city and they had a bad.
It was 0-0 against Burnley, wasn't it? Something, or 1-0 and nobody returned.
Yeah, something like that.
Something
whatever
rubbish.
it was bad. And that's the potential all the time. Like on that free hit in 26 this time, you're unlikely to have Arsenal defense, where a lot of people have got double Arsenal defense, for example, and home to Newcastle. If they clean and you're going with, say, double Wolves defense, for example, or Palace defense, we've got, the good fixtures, and they concede, then you're like, crap. It feels like it could be, you could lean into it and it could really, really work for you. You could lean into it and get hurt. That's just what people have to pick into.
So we can keep going. So a chip in game week 25, you've kind of just talked about that a little bit. I guess people are either saying mainly either no or triple captain, basically. Again, this depends on whether people have used their chips or not, etc., etc. But where are you on this, Pras, at the moment?
Well, we've actually just stumbled upon this week as the triple captain week because there's other weeks for other chips. So if we're talking about 34, 37 as other weeks for free hit and bench boost, if you don't use your triple captain this week, then the only other week that you have as a double, that is a standalone double, it could be the Bournemouth Luton week. So you're triple captaining Solanke. But that also could fall in 34, by the way. That's the prediction at the moment. But it may not, because that's a freestanding, just a rescheduling, right? Or if they decide to do this Chelsea Spurs game any other random week. Again, that's still predicted in 34 and 37, but again, you never know. So apart from these three doubles, there is no other double. This is not the COVID era or the Queen's death season. There's no other double. So you've stumbled upon 25 as the weekend where City double. But the irony is you could have a semi-fit Haaland, or if a Haaland is even completely fit, he's not getting 90. You could have no Salah. So then who the hell do you actually triple captain is the question.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing you've got
does
is
KDB, does KDB triple captain ever work? Has anyone ever done well out of a triple captain on KDB?
No, I don't know if I can remember that.
But you've got the two best attacking teams in the country, and you can pick from any of their players. Pretty much. Well, I mean, you have to own the player, obviously, but you're leaning into three of those guys anyway. Generally, right, two or three of those. So you're picking the best ones, and they're still the best attacks. Like Jota just scored 19 points against Bournemouth. Like these players have enough upside. Like Trent, 18 pointers aren't out the question.
Trent.
I'll tell you why it's complicated. It's complicated because after the double, Liverpool have the final. And Chelsea, as per the prediction, will have a free midweek. So Liverpool have Luton at home as their midweek game. What do?
Trent suddenly becomes the biggest straight no. And oh God.
So we would have these players. We'll have these players, but will you triple captain these players is the question. I suspect we'll just go Haaland plays one, gets a sub in one, chuck it. Triple captain Haaland. I don't care. Maybe he gets both. That's where we'll end up, I think.
It's because he'll be like 210. It'll be like 210, 220, and it'll be I'm just covering my ass.
I mean, that leans you more on Mo as well with that Mo thing of if Mo's just literally, because we're sort of works out that he should be back about that time. Is he really going to come back and play weekend, midweek into a Carabao Cup final?
Yeah. No.
When it's home to Luton and they've got Diaz, Jota, and Gakpo and Darwin, it just doesn't make any sense that he would play on it.
So in a weird way, Mo coming back could be a good thing for Jota and Darwin. I mean, again, we're playing obviously confirmation bias here, but having that final may be a good thing. But back to the triple captain question, just triple captaining Liverpool players will be tricky for this reason of the cup final.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, we really want to be able to rely on captain in Haaland, don't we? That just makes life easier.
Because we don't even have a Cancelo, like a defender that you can really rely on. Can you rely on Foden, triple captain? I can't. I don't think so.
Nah, I can.
No set pieces, no pens. I can't do it.
No, I don't think I can. I don't think I can.
I'm looking to bring in KDB to avoid captaining Foden this week, so I'm definitely not triple captaining.
There you go.
But that might be it. Like I say, again, the lean into is you lean into it, you do it now, you get KDB, you cap him in game week 22, you cap him in triple cap him in game week 25, and if it pays, you've had it.
That's a skyrocket.
It's a skyrocket. It's definitely just the big boy play.
I guess the final question was about people taking hits. Like a quarter of people, pretty much, or 30%, 28% say they're not going to take a hit over the next 4 weeks. But generally, people are going to need to take a hit to get themselves through. And I think that's it's about what I would expect. I mean, I can see more hits going into 25 than coming out to 26. Will you be taking any hits to try and get more players out in 26, Pras, or would you just carry it through as best you can?
I think, firstly, you add one hit to everyone's answer because shit happens. So everyone is taking one more hit than they think they're taking at the moment. And yeah, I'm open to it, especially when you're sitting in 25 with information now on what's happening in 26, very good information of what's happening in 29. You just go, you know what? Another hit for Darwin to a Tony who's playing in 26, who's playing in 29. Heck, I'll just do that because that's a free hit. free hit in the sense that I get 2 games from 1 hit. If Areola is not playing, if Dubravka is not playing, you go, what the heck? I take another hit in game week 25, get a double game week in keeper in Fleck, and he's rubbish. He has a double. He has a game in 26. He has a game in 29. I get 2 extra games. Heck yeah, I'll take another hit. So I think hits will come. I don't think you plan for hits, but hits will come.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to pretend that I'm not going to do loads of hits. And, I've worked through a plan of taking none when I've taken 7 hits this season, which is more than anybody else I've ever come across so far this season. 7 hits in 21 weeks. So
surely I've done more
fair
than that.
chance. No, mate, you
maybe
won't.
I haven't.
You will not have done anywhere near that, mate. I've slyly been the biggest hitter on FPL Twitter. Well, maybe Nathan Bacon. He does that most weeks at the moment. But
7 hits a week.
7 hits is a lot of hits. All singles, all -4s. I've done plenty. So yeah, it probably will be. It probably will be.
So where do we want to go now?
Well, I think just for this week then, if you're not bringing KDB in, so we've got a couple of things. We've got Jota on our thumbnail, so we should probably discuss some Jota. We've got what we would do about Haaland based on what he says. And we've got who we would captain this week. Because we're not going to do another Thursday pod, are we, before the Tuesday one? So this does put us in that space. So let's do the Haaland thing. I have the money for Haaland. Pras, are you saying you've got the money sitting for Haaland?
No.
But
I've got Salah still. But so I can do a double move. I've got 2 free transfers, so I can get to Haaland. But my intention is not to do that and just do 1 transfer and then carry 2 again.
So if he says that he's going to play if he just says that he's going to play some minutes in Burnley, but doesn't tell us what the minutes, and we don't get anything, you wouldn't do it.
No, I just basically see 1 game. Because look, if he starts, he's reasonably loaned, that people are not captaining him. I get the advantage of waiting and seeing a game. Maybe he has a reaction. Maybe he looks really, really great. Maybe he gets 2 minutes only, or maybe it's 90 minutes. All those are valuable information for me, and I'm happy to wait, even though unless he says he starts, I don't see myself getting Haaland this week. But I'm fully prepared, and in my path I don't know if we are discussing that, but in my path to game week 25, it's certain that by next game week, I am planning to get him.
Okay. And then we must just round you off for the game week 22 piece. If you're not going to get Haaland and you're not definitely not going to captain him, and you're not getting KDB, who are you selling Salah for? And who are you captaining?
So I'm selling Salah for Jota. That's the plan. Earlier, the thought was maybe I can get an Eze, because Eze has a really good fixture this week. He has a good fixture in 26 when we need them, has a good fixture in 28 and 29. But now, because he doesn't have a fixture in 29, plus I'm not hot on Palace, I'm just going to get Jota. I think it's a couple of weeks early to get Jota or Darwin or someone else, because away to Arsenal, if I do end up getting Haaland as my 8th attacker, I'll actually be benching Jota. Because otherwise, if you look at my team, everybody has a good fixture next week. So it's a luxury move, but I think given that I don't want to burn a transfer, or I want to use it to be productive for 25, I'm just basically, the thinking is to do Salah to Jota. And then the week after, get Haaland and use my second transfer to, again, build towards 25, 26, 29. So
keep the 2 transfers, which is nice.
And captain would be, I'm on a Spurs pod, so there can only be 1.
You'd captain Richarlison over Jota?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. This week?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you guys tell me he's on pens, right? If let's say Maddison gets limited minutes.
Oh, I think he's on pens regardless. I think he's on pens.
I also
Yeah.
think Maddison didn't look anywhere near the pace of the game when he came
No.
on the pitch. Nowhere near it. He's not quite ready yet. I don't think, not properly.
Richarlison captain. He's been my bus captain from the beginning. I haven't given, because with Foden, with any Man City player, there is some uncertainty. You know, does Alvarez, if Haaland starts, does Alvarez start? If De Bruyne starts, do they do the false nine like he's preferred or not? If De Bruyne starts and Alvarez starts, does Foden play a little bit on the wider? So I'm not saying they're bad options, but there's a little bit of a question mark on all of them. I just go for the guy who I know is most likely going to start, or pretty certain that he's going to start. He's going to be on pens, and I'm just happy to captain him. We'll see. It feels like another Saka Palmer week, where there'll be a few options. One of them will do well, one won't. So we'll just ride it out. But I think he's a good shout. So
I just don't see. I mean, I said, and I still stand by Richarlison over Jota this week, but or do I? I'm just trying to think. Like, when would I think that Richarlison's going to, like, 13 feels like the absolute max you're ever going to get from Richarlison. That's purely.
I don't think that. Like, I think if we potentially will have any opportunity, and Brentford have the keeper that allows us to have him an opportunity to score a hat trick, like that they do give him the opportunity to do it. So it is there. He can do it. I think, you watch the Man City Tottenham game and you're like, this team is a lot better than like how I took that game was we're both trying to play the same way, but one team can and has played it for a long, long time, and therefore they just don't mess up and certainly in the final third, they don't mess up. They get to the chance. The bit that they didn't do against us on Friday night was the finish, but they got to the chance. We had so many times where we could have got to the chance and we didn't get there. And that doesn't change for Richarlison. So I don't think Richarlison could have done any more in that game. I thought he led the line fantastically. His touch, I've never seen his touch like it's been the last few games. He's doing all the right things, but with Kulusevski off the wing, it's kind of like his best creator is potentially going to. There was a couple of times where Richarlison dropped deep and they could have played through Kulusevski and we missed the pass to do it. But it was like, oh, well, I actually want just Kulusevski to have the ball and cross it. And the number of times Johnson had the ball and you were like, I wish this was Kulusevski putting this ball in. It's not, and Timo and Brennan are not really the wingers that you think are going to make a lot of stuff from it. And like you say, Maddison wasn't there. Do I think Brentford could do what Man City did? No, because they're not Man City. Like, they showed us just how good they are. We do know that Brentford probably will play free at the back against us. Because Thomas Franks just said literally every big game I play free at the back. I think that's okay for us. I think it's good for Richy, because I think it means that Johnson and Timo are going to have to sort of force inside a little bit. But it's the thing with Richy, it can always still be a 1-pointer because he can get booked in any game and he can blank in any game. Like you say, he's not, the limited side of it, he's not a goal a game player. Jota scored today and he scored 12 goals. It was 12 goals today for the season. You were like, he's not played. I don't understand how he scored 12 goals this season. He's not played. I'm as, for me, so I'll play my I've already got Richarlison. Richarlison's been my bus captain the whole time. I've got the money sitting there to do. I've got 13 million, so I've got more than the money to sit in there to do Archer to Haaland. I could just do Archer to Haaland. I am semi-tempted to do that if I think he's going to get some. So if he says he's going to get some minutes, I just think, well, definitely, is 30 minutes, 20 minutes of Haaland better than Archer? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it better than Garnacho with 20 minutes, with Garnacho playing Wolves? Probably as well. So I probably could do that. My other option is that I would probably have to sell Cole Palmer to go to Jota and do that now because it pushes me a step into the 25 team. Because I think most of us, regardless of what you do, have Cole Palmer on our bench in 25.
Yep.
And then to get me out in the free hit situation, then that works. The downside of doing that now is I don't know if Cole Palmer's going to play in 29. Because of the Chelsea Villa game.
I mean, the odds are now that he does, so that slightly worsens it because obviously Chelsea are away to Villa. So you'd have liked Chelsea to win that, but they didn't. Look, the Haaland thing, it's all a judgment, right? On what will Pep say? Pep has now got a track record of saying he's ready to play 90 minutes and playing KDB for 20 with KDB. So for Haaland, whatever he says, you don't know. The only risk with going early on Haaland is that you've moved early and put your funds into a player where maybe you don't want to put those funds because you could potentially use those funds for a De Bruyne later or a Salah later. If something goes worse than what we think, we don't know. Once he plays, what happens? So that's the only thing. But then selling Palmer also has its risks because if you feel...
Oh, you're talking about 100% own player. Like it is genuinely like we're at that space now where I think top 100K, he was something like 95% owned, not effective owned.
Yeah.
And so you're then facing that. I mean, some people will bench him this week for the Liverpool game, but they won't bench him for home Wolves. They won't bench him for away Crystal Palace.
Yeah. I mean, they win the most number of penalties, and the guy scores every penalty, and he plays false nine or through the middle, where he's a creative hub as well. I mean, he's a machine. He could be 9 million and still be worth it. But I get it. Everything is contextual. Like I'll probably be selling Poro next week, which makes no sense when he has a game in 29. But you need to make 25, 26 work somehow, and you need to release some pressure from one position where you think you can release this player and then get them back. So I can get Poro back for Trent later.
Yeah. It's tough decisions, this, mate. It's tough decisions, this. But yeah, like the obvious thing for me probably is Palmer to Jota. And back that Liverpool at home are a better team than Chelsea away, which I do. Do I back it enough that I'm when Palmer's on pens and Palmer's more guaranteed the minutes and all the rest of it? No, probably not. We are 12 minutes past 10 and Egypt have just had a man sent off in extra time.
Good depends, isn't it?
Well, they have.
Hasn't come up on my sofa score, but there we go.
97th minute, yep.
Nice.
I don't know what for. We'll find out. But yeah, maybe a pen. I don't know if it's a pen, anything else, but it's a red card. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'm on Richarlison. It probably stay on Richarlison with Jota, but it'll be something I need to think about.
Jota playing 90, does that bother you, or do you see it as, oh, he's ready for 90?
I think he's ready for 90.
I think he's ready.
That front three of when fit, the Jota, Darwin, Salah front three is the best three they have. Jota's one of the best number nines. He's one of the best out and out number nines there is. I mean, his finishing is outstanding. His heading for the guy that his size is honestly, it's phenomenal. And his positioning for those headers, like again, I don't know how he wins so many headers. It's insane. I mean, his finish today, like, you know, I said to Janny jokingly about Darwin. I said, mate, it's Norwich, but I'm going to say good things about Jota now because of his goal against Norwich. But the finish was just, you know, it's instinctive. Like straight off the head of the head of the Norwich player. Didn't even have a look. Just left foot past the keeper on the volley. You know, he's in a good space right now, and yeah, I think he's fantastic. I'm going to go back on my who would I captain? I'd probably captain Jota over Richarlison. I just like which team's going to score more goals this week. I mean, I could see Liverpool scoring more than Tottenham.
Can you? Chelsea defense is not that bad.
The thing on that is though, like the hindsight man for me would say for the last game week, my brain said I fancy Arsenal to win 5-0 against, or so like I felt they were going to bash them
Yeah.
up. Yeah. And I didn't trust Chelsea. Well, what played out is Chelsea were right not to trust. But if there was anything that was ever going to happen, it was going to happen because of Palmer. And guess what? He did very well. Arsenal did bash him up, but Saka didn't have to have the involvement because they're a really good team. They can score from set pieces. That doesn't always have to be him taking it. They can score from any of the other 4 or 5 forwards that go from it. And it is still the same on Liverpool. What you've said there, which is swaying me a little bit back on it, is that 90 today, Chelsea midweek, will they really, really want him for the home game against Arsenal to play
Absolutely.
90 minutes in that? Like, that's the more they'll want, even if they're winning, they'll be quite happy to take Jota off after 60 in midweek against Chelsea because they'll want him to be fresh for Sunday's game against Arsenal, which is at Arsenal.
Yeah.
That's the bit that would be enough for me to probably just say cap Richy. But do I think I potentially would still get Jota in? Ooh. But like you say, like all the other option is I play Garnacho and roll and work it out next week.
Who are we playing again?
Away to Wolves.
Yeah, Baker's the only one with any United players in there, so he's the only one that has it to hand. So you can just see, you can see it underneath the picture.
Away to Wolves. Last game of the game week, Thursday.
He's going to play. We've got issues with Rashford now. So he's going to play on his beloved left side, Anthony on the right. I mean, assuming Rashford still misses the weekend.
I'm sure he'll have recovered from his illness by then.
Yeah, we know what that is. So I think something of a 1-game punishment or something. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, you'll hear it, but it's just so close. If it was a weekend game, I would have said, okay, Rashford will be back. Just feels like he's made the news. They might keep him out one more game and say, look, it was actually an illness, but behind the scenes, it'll be 1 game actually you need to miss because disciplinary or whatever. I feel it'll be Garnacho on the left and Anthony. Anthony also scored, so confidence.
But if Rashford is back, that's bad for Garnacho because Anthony scored.
Well, no. Anthony's not going to start over Garnacho. Anthony will only start if one of them is unavailable, which I'm assuming would be Rashford.
Even Anthony won't start, even though he's the greatest. No, I shan't. I'm not.
He's on a 1-goal streak for the season now.
Oh my God. I can't believe you brought that up and then just stopped. And
I don't think Praz has seen it.
I don't think he has. I don't think he has.
You'll find out.
Oh no. We have to say it, surely.
No, absolutely not. I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
Who are you captain in this week, Adam?
So if I look at the fixtures and last week I looked at the fixtures and went, Arsenal are more likely to score 5 than anybody else. And then I look at the fixtures this week and I go, City are more likely to score 5 than anyone else. Like there's no other fixture. Like I can't believe we're looking at City versus Burnley and
not capping someone
and not capping someone from City. It genuinely just baffles me. Yeah. So my captaincy will likely be on a City player. I do need press conference though. I do need press conference because Haaland looks good in training. Like, obviously he's a specimen, so he looks fantastic in training. They make sure they get the right shot that they release, don't they? That muscles pure, contracted, everything, like anything you could ever want.
He's going to do that again tomorrow, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's going to happen tomorrow.
It's going to be full stretch. It's going to be like, pure godness or whatever. Anyway, so I can see myself captaining Haaland. The only problem with Haaland is actually to get him in. I actually need to take a -8. That's the only problem that I have.
It's a small problem.
But then I get KDB at the same time. So then I just get KDB and Haaland and I get all the points and all the captaincy points in a 5-0 win, then, who cares?
That's good.
I'm pretty laser focused on that, I have to say. My mind is, it's very difficult for me to... Well, yeah. João Pedro facilitates the whole thing. He enables everything.
So then I get in a player also that's on pens away at Luton, which isn't fantastic, but it's okay. He gets pens. So it's Mo, Alvarez, and Watkins out. KDB, Haaland,
João Pedro. Yeah, easy.
It's a big boy -8.
As far as -8s go, it's pretty solid.
Trying to catch me on the old hits. I know what you're doing.
Well, I am one behind you, so I do need to. Yeah, so I've had 20. Well, I say yeah, so I've had 24 points in hits.
But Alvarez is a good shout this week if Haaland is out, no?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But the risk that Alvarez has is if Haaland's back, the risk on Alvarez is KDB and Haaland. Like it's both of them. It's not like it's just one of them. Like because Haaland and Alvarez played together like for the first half of the season, and both of them were getting points. So it's not like Haaland is bad for Alvarez. Actually, having KDB in the frame as well makes it a problem. I think Foden's, for the first time in his career, feels nailed. Like it feels like he's.
Why are we not just all captain Foden then? I don't know.
Foden's good. Even Saka's good as the captain, but people have PTSD, so they won't captain Saka because people didn't give him the assist for a goal that Gabriel scored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on set pieces, he's on corners, isn't he? On pens. Forrester woeful, defensively especially. So, yeah, I'm finding it difficult to look past City.
Yeah.
I find it really hard. I find it really hard to look past City. And yeah, I think it does. It kind of paves me into that free hit 26 because I'm kind of just making moves that make that work. But I do think that 29, 34, 37, they're so far away that stuff's going to happen. Stuff's going to change. Like, we've got 2 rounds of FA Cup games. We've got Europe to contend with for the big teams. All sorts of shit could happen. Like Salah might not come back. Might just not come back. You say like it's an injury that he's never had before. So it might just take him ages to come back. It might happen that Kev plays 45 minutes, gets an assist and then goes off injured again and he's done for the season. Yeah, we just don't know. So I would prefer to put my... If I'm... look, I feel confident that KDB will start. I think that this is a game that he will start because, as I said about the Spurs game on the Friday, you're about to tell me that something's happening in AFCON.
No, nothing there. It's weird if he doesn't start. It's weird.
It does feel weird.
If he says
this is one of the easiest games
and then doesn't start him and then doesn't start him again, it's weird.
This should be a game that he can roam, right? He can literally roam, like energy wise. Doesn't need to be hugely high intensity from a running perspective for him.
I do think they're intense. Burnley bashed up Man United early on in the season. You won that game, but they bashed you up. They were the intensity. Man United could not live with them. They were all over them. I think that's what's really good for the game is that because Burnley are so intense and play because a company plays in a City way, potentially they just get completely dismantled by doing so. That's what happened to us, wasn't it? We tried to play in an intense way, trying to play out from the back, trying to do all the right things, and the ball just kept coming back. Well, you'd assume that if we couldn't get the ball out, you'd assume Burnley definitely can't get the ball out. Yeah. But I don't think the intensity part. I just think the fact that there is that if you got 70 minutes of Kev at home to Burnley, it's big.
Yeah.
It's big.
Do we want to take a couple of questions or are we just going to do a couple of questions? Because we're an hour and a half now.
We could take up questions. We could hopefully try and see penalties. That'd be fun as well.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. I think my wife's going to want to go to bed in a minute. So I'm going to need to be quiet soon. So questions. So who do we think takes pens for Liverpool?
McAllister. Or if Flappy J is right, Darwin Núñez.
Most people seem to think Darwin, don't they?
I can't. Why would it not be McAllister? Like he was literally a penalty taker. And
also, these next 2 games are just so big. They're
Yeah.
so big. You just trust it. Like if they get a penalty against Arsenal, you just trust McAllister so much.
I think so.
There's not too many other questions actually. To be fair, I get one that said Adam, is Richarlison going to continue scoring points? Yeah, probably. Hopefully. Like he's playing top man for Tottenham, so hopefully he does. Though that said, if you looked at his position map on SofaScore from the game against City, he was deeper than Højbjerg.
He works
was
unbelievable.
Incredible.
But that's
that's not good.
is.
That's not good for points. Not
Well,
necessarily
it's not good for
points
if your team doesn't have only has one shot in a game. That's
true.
That's
also
an issue. But
then it's also City.
Like Hibbo's asked why you wearing your cap back to front.
Don't know. Just have been all day.
To show his pretty face. That's what it is.
Show his
Otherwise,
pretty face.
Covers a third of the face if it's front.
Look at his magnificent hair.
It's a disaster today.
That's good hat hair for a man who's worn hat
all day.
Cap all day.
Yeah, it's all right.
People are asking about Madison. Not this week, right? You guys said he's looking.
He just looked. We didn't get much from him.
27 onwards. Like you can look at Madison. Don't.
Yeah. And the 10 minutes he got or whatever, he looked. I know we were all off the pace, but he never really looked like he was even there.
Spartans has said that you haven't said helicopter view. We haven't said the word. We haven't used the term. Is it catchphrased? Is it copyrighted to the wire? No,
it's not. No, it's helicopter view is like the most used corporate term ever in the history. It's just new to FPL. But yeah, I think last year I used to do helicopter view a lot because I think there was a far lesser understanding of how the doubles come about because of these FA Cups or Carabao Cup. I think now people are so clued on. They know. You don't need to explain to people that game week 26 is going to be a blank because it's the final of the Carabao Cup. They know. So you already start from a position of, you guys know this. Now let's discuss what's next.
It's good. It's good when you say it. Then we all like. It's the old. We sit forward. We take attention.
Thank you.
Helicopter is the one. Would you sell Bowen for Foden this week?
So team dependent. Bowen's such a good pick. He could even have a game in 29. Unlike the Brighton guys, if you look for a good Brighton pick, like I think Gross is still a good pick. I think Pedro is an amazing pick. Estupinan is an amazing pick. But now you have this thing hanging over your head that there's going to be another new problem in 29. Maybe it's too far out and you pick your points now, but maybe with Bowen, you don't even have that problem because he has a game with Villa. So Bowen's just a good pick. But if he stops you from getting a Jota or a Foden or a doubler, then you need to think about doing it at some point. But it's Bournemouth at home this week. Why would you sell this week?
Gross, you said there was and someone in the chat said about benching one of Gross, Palmer, Solanke. I don't know if you saw touch map for Gross yesterday, but I mean, full six, like, and that it's that old thing. It's a bit like saying gambling on City is these things can happen. I did it earlier in the I did oh my god, another player that I bought James Ward-Prowse. I just remembered I did that for a game, like because he was playing 10, then suddenly he ain't playing 10. And that's the thing with Gross is he can play 6 and then next week, guess what, he's playing 10 again. That's the issue with it. How do you bench Gross away at Luton? It's tough, but I just would probably always trust Solanke and Palmer more.
The reason I was considering Gross on last week before getting Foden, and the reason I didn't is because of how good João Pedro is, and basically Gross is second in line for penalties. So, and the fact that some games he just shows up at right back or DM. But there's also games where he's attacking. So Gross is like one of those picks. You don't worry if there's a blank. You don't worry if there's 2 blanks. You have to hold. That's what you want to do going in. I mean, I think he's better than Ward-Prowse in the sense that sometimes he is more further forward in the games that he is playing further forward.
Yeah.
And there is a chance of pens. Yeah. And there is a chance of pens if Pedro is off the pitch. So you just have to stay patient. But I think between those 3, look, I would still say Palmer's fixture is difficult. It is away to Liverpool. So I would still say away to Luton versus away to Liverpool. You'll kick yourself if Gross does something. So I'd still say probably still Palmer.
I have been
If you
listening.
could,
I have been listening, but it was the helicopter view.
I saw your smirk. I saw your smirk.
I was straight back over to WhatsApp.
Oh man, we've already done it.
There it
Um,
is. There
the
it
fact
is.
There
that
it
this is
is.
photoshopped on the best finale that we've seen in a
Oh,
while, for the
Whoa,
best
whoa,
show
whoa,
that
whoa,
we've
whoa,
seen in a
whoa,
while.
whoa! We can't talk about that. We
I'm
can't
not
talk
saying
about that.
anything about it. I'm not saying
Yep,
it's
yep, yep.
basically from that.
is it a spoiler if we say that you were in the finale of Traitors?
Now you know, Adam, why everyone's talking about it. Yeah, I made it to the final.
Very
You
good.
made it to the final, so everyone's in it. Yeah, that's where we're at. If you could buy one of Jota or Richarlison this week, we've got a couple have asked that. Ryan's asked that in the chat. Who would you buy this week?
It's a tough one. If I have to say Richarlison, because I'm captaining him over Jota. And you know, one other thing is, um, I'm a little bit worried about buying Jota this week. He's an injury-prone player. So I'm doing it because I have the luxury. I have Foden, I have Richarlison, you know, the two mids that people are looking to buy. So I'm going Jota because I probably want him. But I am a little worried that, you know, Jota isn't the most, you're not buying a Salah that you know is going to be fit and he's going to get you 90-90. So, I mean, you guys tell me, what do you think? Is Richarlison going to stay? What does it mean when Son is back and Madison is back?
I I think he's our number 9. I really think. I really think he's on it, on his game in a really good way. Is there any of these next 4 fixtures where I'm like, guaranteed we're scoring 5 here? I'm not sure on that. Like I said, home to Brentford, away to Everton, home to Brighton, home to Wolves. Hey, look, it's 3 out of the next 4 is at home,
And the
and
away
the
game
away
is
is
his old
Everton.
home.
It's his old home.
Yeah.
Like, he's got no excuses.
Mm.
He's got no excuses. This is the time for him. Madison's coming back. He's got the settled defense. Everything's there. Obviously, you know, Timo's now played a couple more games. Kulusevski's back. Just waiting on Salah and Sarr and Basuma. Hopefully, we start moving into that things. I think Basuma can play from Everton onwards if he is out. So yeah, got a good chance that we would get Basuma back, and Ivory Coast and Senegal, isn't it? Tomorrow, I think. So potentially Sarr comes back early as well. So it doesn't help us for 22, but it does help us in the games going forward on those things. I just think it's really good. And I think if your team's fine that you can get through 26 or bury him in 26, it's fine. The question I would say on anyone with Charlison, you can't really bury. I don't think you can really bury Richarlison and Palmer. Or should.
I'm planning. Well, it's a question actually in the chat, and I have the same question to you guys. I'll have to sell one of the Spurs boys because I'm not selling Palmer because I think Chelsea. It's likely that Chelsea have a game in 29, and I bought the guy at 4.9, so I'm not selling it. I'm not planning to sell Trent because I've got other good defenders, so I can just hide Trent in 26. So Palmer and Trent are on my bench in 26. Question is, who's the third? It could be Richarlison or it could be Poro. Who do you
Yeah.
think is more? You must have them.
I think the good thing with Richarlison, the good thing with say selling Richarlison in 26, you can sell Richarlison to one of the cheaper guys, especially if
Yeah.
we know one of the cheaper guys is playing this potentially in 29, like Eze, for example, Wang. Those are the two immediately that I'm like, I like them. Doug Luiz probably again, you know, is potentially as a good
Keeps
fixture
wide.
26, but someone there where you're going to get like 1 and a bit million out of him, which and then you go, well, I'm going to do is then I'm going to use and I'm going to go Foden in 27 off to Son. So I've still got the attacker. I've got now the attacker I want because do you think you can have Richarlison and Son? Well, maybe, maybe if you're not going to free hit 29, but if you are going to free hit in 29, maybe not. It's hard. It's really hard to double up on midfielders at the moment. You know, we're not guaranteeing we're going to double up on well, most people are not doubling up on Foden and KDB, despite the fact they've got a double when they play in 26. So that tells you how hard it is.
And they play Burnley.
And they play Burnley.
So why would you ever consider doubling up on any midfield in the rest of the league?
Yeah, exactly. But most people are still not doing that. So the idea that you double up on Spurs midfield it feels even harder. But I think there is an easy one where you can still have Richarlison in and still to get him out in 26. Porro's quite expensive now. Probably a lot of it depends when you got him. Like, I got him early. So I'll probably like to carry him.
Yeah, but you see, value I don't necessarily care as much about, because I don't think I'll have Porro wildcard 31 or 32, whenever that is, because Spurs' fixtures at the back end of the season are terrible.
Yeah, good
and
point.
The time when I will have Porro, so if I sell him and I buy him back, I'll be selling Trent. I'll be value is not going to be a problem, because there's not going to be any Salah. There's not, Haaland also is actually sellable in game week 29. So you have money flowing around again until your next wildcard. And so I'm trying to evaluate who do I want after my wildcard. And I don't think Porro is in that bucket, but Palmer is. So therefore, I'd like to retain my a million sale value in Palmer, but care less about the sale value in a Porro. I mean, but I get what you're trying to say as well.
I just think I'd rather. I think you can continue to just keep pushing for those big hitting options, and I think potentially if you look at the fixtures, so for Wang you get Sheffield United at home in 26, and you get the Fulham home game in 28, and like there's some big old games, like that's some good work. If you same on Eze, you've got Burnley home in 26, you've got Luton home in 28, you go into Forest in and Bournemouth in 30-31, then it's out. Gone. But there's some really good runs for those players. Palmer's same deal, 30 onwards again. His fixture's just ridiculous. I'm not going to say Morgan Gibbs White again, but hey, he could have a game and he is going to play Luton, Crystal Palace and Fulham across 29, 30, 31. But
he's in my 26 draft I sent you guys, because he looks like the guy who will have a game in 26, have a game in 29, has a good game in 30. Yeah. So he ticks a few boxes.
Yeah. He's about. There's an option there for it. It's there's plenty of mid-price midfielders, which would lead me more to you jump on Richarlison for the next 4 and you get off him again.
Cool.
All right.
Let's leave it there so we can go and watch pens. I think we should do that. One thing we haven't said, the last thing I'm going to say is the golf day is happening.
Yes.
We didn't say it at the start, but the golf day is happening. So Friday the 19th of April, we're going down to Donington Grove in Newbury. We're going to have the first of 2 golf days this year. So if you are interested and haven't got in touch yet about it, then drop me a message on Twitter. I'll grab your email address and we'll get you included on the distribution list. So it should be excellent. And if you want to hit the like button because you've enjoyed the content with Pras today and with Baker, of course, then make sure you do that. And if you want to see more of us, hit subscribe. We're very, very close to 7,000 subs now. So
really close.
We'd like to just get over that line and continue our way up. Thank you very much to everyone that's joined us in live as well. Really, really appreciate you being there. Pras, thanks for joining us this evening. Always a pleasure.
You're podding tomorrow, Pras?
I'm with Late Riser, tomorrow late afternoon UK time. So I have to go to work, and so I'll rush back and do that. But no, I wanted to thank you guys. I wanted to also give my shout out to the channel. I really enjoy it. Really enjoy the stuff you guys do. It's very hard to do a podcast on the back of a game week that has just ended. You have to watch all the games and you have to sort of help us out and you do our homework. So thank you very much. And I do encourage people, if you're not subscribed, please do. You guys are criminally undersubscribed. So if you can, please help the guys out because you're one of my favorites.
You saw the frantic exchange of tweets, pictures, all sorts of stuff this afternoon. That was just after a draw and no games. Like you should see it when it's a full calendar. It's Sunday afternoons. It's tight.
It's chaotic. It's chaotic. The thing is, the advantage is the that we've seen the stuff and it's happened and we kind of know what we can take from it. I'm just so bloody confused about still what to do over the next few weeks. I think I'm maybe better off just keep sticking to the plan. Stick to the plan and then work it out later.
I do think this week, shout out a few hours. Green Arrow was on earlier, and Ben Crellin was on that. Obviously, I'm hopeful everyone's watched this tonight and I have also not hearing this. You're on with Late Riser tomorrow. I believe Planet FPL doing a chip pod tomorrow as well. Gents, we'll go through all of that stuff. This is one of those where get your friendship groups, because you probably can't watch them all or listen to them all. Get notes between you, share them around. This is what I'm taking. This is what I'm taking. This is what I'm taking. This is one like I'm always for friends in the community rather than we beat everybody up. But this is one where it's a good thing to do, to share stuff and be open. And I do think if you're not sure, potentially you just let it ride, because midweeks can be treacherous anyway.
Yeah,
agreed.
We were saying it at the start. You know, the guys in the top 10k, top 100k. There's a few that have luck boxed their way in there still, and there's a few that, you know, we're talking about chaos. You know, this kind of chaos is going to cause a problem for managers that just have managed to make a few good picks and kind of luck their way to it. So you're still chasing a lot of the pack at the moment. Still chasing. I'm chasing fucking loads of the pack.
But one big thing, like, so last week, what was your rank before and after last week, Pras?
I've forgotten now, like 140 to 98 or 180 to 98k.
I think you were something like 108, and I was 190 to 298. Like, so we're still close enough that literally, despite us both having the same centre back in the same team, like a haul which can happen at any time for anyone, can have huge impact, and you can also come back from huge impacts. I'm not like, oh my god, that's it, season over. We've still got plenty of time.
Yeah,
I mean, in truth,
and I tend to
go on, Pras.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, I just tend to think at this period as the most low-hanging fruit period to gain points on the less engaged. And there's quite a few still who either have been luckier than usual or are playing a blinder. But if they're a little less engaged and they don't know, you know, the information that we've gone through this week, then you have low-hanging fruit of like 12, 15 points of just hits, or getting that one player that they won't have, that you'll have an extra game out of. That's enough. 15 points is a lot. So you have a head start if you're doing your homework. So that's what I try to think, that if you just sort of do the basics, then you should be good.
Yeah. And even if you don't beat people at the moment, they're probably playing wildcards. You know, like for all we are like now here, like painting ourselves over it, there's going to be 5 million people that come game week 25 go, oh, bash my buttons. We haven't talked about wildcard and so forth. I was going to mention a friend of mine, Adam, Joe's on is potentially looking at wildcard even this week. Any thoughts on wildcard over the next few weeks in terms of like what would it take for you to want to do it this week, Pras?
I can't do it this week. There's too much uncertainty. Absolutely no chance. I mean, I'm having trouble using 2 free transfers. No chance.
Do you think anyone should do it this week? Do you think anybody should do it?
It's team dependent. I mean, if if the team looks really bad and there's a host of injuries and you've taken an early transfer for an injured player and want to wipe out the hits, people did it basically for that last week, to wipe out the Bowen hits or other stuff. So it's always team dependent. It's always a bit too cocky to say you shouldn't do it in a particular week. Everyone can do it and actually do well. I mean, look at the early part of the season. We were all, game week 7, 8, 9, 10. This is the wildcard window. People who wildcarded in 4, 5, 6 absolutely smashed it. They got all the value out of the Watkins, the Trippiers, and all the other good stuff. When we wildcarded, I mean, we did well eventually, but it was really tough. That period was really turbulent. So who knows, people who wildcard now, a bit like Adam's strategy, right? Just be sensible, get the picks who you think will score points, deal with the stuff later. Maybe the thing falls into place where Liverpool go out in the FA Cup and they have a game in game week 29. Adam's laughing.
The one thing I did think was that you tweeted earlier about popular strategies, and you used the extra chip on your things, which is DE, which you then had to explain just in case anyone doesn't know, which is dead end.
Yeah.
Like last season, because of a change of fixtures, I went I'm banging the button, which means I kind of felt like I lost a chip because I never did the dead end. It's so you miss a part of the season, and I think it's the same now. Like you do it now, not dead end. I'd be more tempted to say, well, I'm going to dead end by getting Kev in this week and captaining Kev, and then see whether I can afford it in a couple of weeks. Because game week 24 is for me is a better one once we know a bit more about that Liverpool team.
Correct. You could get Salah, De Bruyne, you can wildcard and then free hit in 26. Yeah, 24 is a good wildcard window, or good-ish, better than now. 27 is a good wildcard window. You come out of all this mess and then you just wildcard and say, look, now I'll fix the mess and then I'll look forward. There's good windows.
It's penalties, boys.
It's penalties. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Otherwise, it's going to be never ending, I swear, honestly.
Just do what? No, not really.
No. Don't. No, you two can't say any more. That's it. Guys, again, on YouTube, thanks very much for joining us live. If you haven't done so, make sure you drop that like button, hit that like button and drop a subscribe. It'd be really appreciated. Thanks again to Pras. Thanks to Baker. Thanks to all of you lot. Penalties now. We're out. See you later.